It's time for Takes on Takes, the episode where we offer our take on your take today on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast.
You are Locked On NFL Scouting with the Draft Dudes, your daily podcast for NFL and college football scouting. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's better than this? It's guys being dudes here on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast. We're the Draft Dudes. I'm Joe Marino from Locked On Bills. He's Kyle Crabbs from Locked On Dolphins. And we are your NFL experts here with you daily to talk team building across the league on the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast with the Draft Dudes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I want to issue a big thank you, shout out, and welcome to our everydayers. Those of you who never miss a single episode, we appreciate y'all being here very, very much. This episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL and use code lowercase LockedOnNFL to win $50 instantly when you play $5.
I'm looking forward to us potentially discussing whether or not too high safety shells should be banned. Here today on Takes on Takes. Thanks to Mel Kiper's take yesterday about too high safety shells being banned from the league.
Tattle take of tattle takes.
Cover two. We have to ban cover two.
Right. Not the tush push, not the hip drop tackle.
It's ban quarters.
Right.
Palms.
Right. Yeah, that's too many trapped coverages
Man.
leading to interceptions. Nobody wants to see interceptions. Yeah, I agree. It's crazy.
If you think about it, cover three is even worse than cover two because there's three guys deep instead of two guys deep.
Tough world to live in.
Yeah.
I can't believe you said it out loud, man. I can't believe it.
On national television.
Right.
National TV. All right. What do we have today?
Well,
Takes.
We have some good stuff, some good football stuff, a little movie stuff, a little food stuff, so it should be fun. But the first one comes from our good friend, Chris Schubert. And he's got us doing the thing, which you would expect from Chris Schubert, who says of the 9 teams that have started 0-2 in 2024, at least 3 of them will make head coaching changes by the end of the season.
By the end of the season.
In-season firings. I have the list of 9 teams, so we can do the thing. Shall we?
Yes.
First up, the Denver Broncos.
No.
Sean Payton fired by the end of the year?
No.
Yeah, I'd be real surprised, especially because
I mean, they gave up assets for him.
Yeah, and it's so tailored for Sean Payton. Like his fingerprints, they appear very heavily, very quickly wherever he goes. So I think this team is committed to Sean Payton for at least next year.
Okay.
So that's a no. Baltimore Ravens.
No.
No way. No way. Even though the whole thing about blowing fourth quarter leads is troubling, no way. The Cincinnati Bengals.
No.
Right. No way. So 3 in, we've got 0. Next up, the Indianapolis Colts, Shane Steichen.
Probably not, but I don't think has the leeway the other coaches that has been discussed thus far has. But like I could see this season kind of going sideways for the Colts. A lot of injuries on defense already. Anthony Richardson's not playing particularly well. I know the receivers have dropped a number of balls on him, but at the same time, it hasn't been pretty offensively. That was kind of what we were expecting with Shane Steichen, right?
Yeah, I think Richardson and his style of play with Alec Pierce kind of being the most productive receiver to this point, and Pittman being more of a timing-based receiver that's going to get to his spots, and Richardson's not that type of guy. I don't think you're maximizing it. I think Josh Downs is important for them, and I think that will help us get some more clarity on what's going on there. But, if you can't stop the run, like that, there's nothing more demoralizing than just teams run the ball down your throat. I'd be surprised because I thought Shane Steichen did some really good things in year 1. I think he gets to a 3rd season. This is obviously the most likely of the teams we've talked about to this point. I still say no.
looking at the games left on the schedule as far as teams that can run the ball, the next 3 are Chicago, Pittsburgh, and Jacksonville, Miami, Houston, Minnesota, Buffalo, Detroit, New England.
Boy,
There are a lot of teams that can run the ball.
that's trouble.
Schedule.
It's trouble.
So y'all better figure it out in the front, and you don't get your bye until week 14. So, question mark.
Next up, the Carolina Panthers 0-2. Dave Canales, one and done, fired midseason. Like 2 coaches in a row, you can't do that, right?
It depends. Are they going to average a minus 30 point differential every game this season?
I think they're going to be a lot better with Dalton.
I think they are too. I think it's unlikely because he's a year 1 coach, but like we should probably stop acting like this is. There's been enough of these now where if it is a disaster class all season long, you could. I don't think it'll happen because I think they will stabilize.
I mean, if Tepper fires year 1 coaches in back-to-back years during the season, boy, totally within the realm of possibilities for Dave Tepper, but
correct.
Boy.
He was at practice on Wednesday too. Made his presence felt.
This next one feels kind of easy. The New York Giants.
Yes.
Yeah, that feels good. I think we got one for sure.
Yep.
Next one feels possible. The Jacksonville Jaguars.
Yes.
You hate to see it, right?
Well, I just don't. The same majority contributing factor to Doug not working in Philadelphia was the marriage to Press Taylor. And how those lines are blurry about the impact on the offense. This is now end of last year, beginning of this year sample size of same troubling trend for Jacksonville. Yeah, I think if this season and they're at Buffalo, at Houston the next 2 weeks, okay, then you got to get Green Bay. They'll have Jordan Love back by that point. You got to go to Philadelphia, at Detroit, Houston again. You get the Jets in here. They got some tough very realistically looking at potentially 0-4 to start the season. And then I think the hole's too big to dig out of there from that point.
So we're in.
So I would say yes. I think predictively looking at where that team troublingly is right now and how it's trending, I think that one happens.
So, and we did the Giants already, right?
Yeah. We didn't do the Titans yet.
Titans are next. Hothead Brian Callahan, not even finishing his first season.
No.
He's going to make it, right?
I mean, they uprooted a very successful tenured coach in Mike Vrabel with the intention of kind of building something anew and a new vision. I don't think you'd give up on that after a year. And they were very aggressive. Their defense looks really good. I think they'll be fine.
The last one is the Rams.
No.
So we feel good about the Giants and Jaguars, and like maybe for the Colts, Panthers.
I think this was too aggressive of a take.
Yeah, he said at least 3.
At least 3.
Yeah, Chris, I think you went aggressive here, but that's the whole point. We want your aggressive takes, but we are not aligned on this one. All right, folks, coming up on the other side of it, some quarterback stuff. We got some movie takes. Klint Kubiak, folks, be sure to stick with us. You've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Well, we got a little something different for you. Now through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. And with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon on a market game. All that you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com to download America's #1 sportsbook. This one's from One Fan's Opinion. BY9, which I guess is Bryce Young, will start for the Panthers in 2025. This gives him the rest of the season to study under Dalton and Canales, focus on his development, and allows the team to become more cohesive and use the offseason to further bolster the roster. Then we'll see if he can succeed.
Do I have any trust in the guy who's writing everybody's checks there to be content to go into another season with Bryce Young as their perceived answer after they just benched him?
I don't think they should.
I don't think they should either.
But if you were in on Bryce Young as a prospect and you've convinced yourself that Carolina has failed him, then you probably think that this is true.
How do we get Bryce Young takes every week on this show?
Dude, you're not wrong about that. Literally,
We get Bryce Young takes every single week.
Maybe they will go away now that he's been officially benched and nothing will happen. But yeah, people want us to talk about Bryce Young, I guess. So that's the beauty of takes on takes.
Quarterbacks. Can't wait for 10 years of Jalen Milroe takes starting next year.
I noticed he hasn't been in your mock drafts yet in the first round.
Interesting. I think he's made some nice growth as a player. I've been scouting a lot of college quarterbacks this week. And the vertical down the field passing stuff is really attractive for him. Obviously, the athleticism's there, but I don't know. The league's allowed to play 2 high safeties. So how are you going to be able to? How much are you going to be able to do?
We'll see if the rule changes come in from Mel Kiper.
Yeah, if Mel gets the competition committee to ban cover 2, then maybe Milroe.
Yeah, yeah. I got a feeling we're going to be okay there. The sports nut Panthers fan, you could tell he wants to maybe deflect a little bit off Carolina, even though he does like to expose Dave Tepper. Sports nut says the Cleveland Browns 2025 starting quarterback is not currently on the roster.
Probably, but if you move off of Deshaun, there's financial implications that are a part of that. And that's really going to limit your ability to sign another veteran player. I guess, they made Jameis Winston work short term, but if you're intending to sign a veteran with the intent to start, I think that does change the price point you're working with. So you're going to draft another guy. How early are you willing to draft a guy? It's interesting.
I'll say this. Next week's takes on takes, no Deshaun Watson, no Bryce Young. We
need to make a list and keep track. And then these takes are banned for a month.
Right. There's nothing new to discuss. The next one comes from Kevin, and Kevin is looking to redeem himself. He feels bad about the peaches and cream thing and the corn on the cob.
He should.
From last week.
Is this Kevin Gerard?
Yes. Yeah. Good dude. Good dude.
How you doing, man?
So here's what he's got for us this week. He's got his top 5 biggest goosebump moments in sports movies.
Oh, I saw this one. I'm going to have an unpopular reaction to this. Go ahead.
All right. Well, I got a little thoughts on this too. Number 5, game in inches speech any given Sunday. That's good.
Too low.
Right?
It's too low.
Too low, but it's definitely in the top 5.
It's a fire speech. Yep.
Yeah, okay. Maybe one day people can hear Kyle Crabbs recite that speech as if he's Al Pacino, but we might not be that lucky. Not today is not today. Number 4, Denzel's speech to the team at Gettysburg for Remember the Titans. Strong.
Also top 5.
Strong. Number 3, Ricky Barnes enters to Wild Thing Major League. It's a pretty cool moment, man. I like those Major League movies.
I like Major League movies too. But
it's a little top 5 though. Number 2, Rudy gets his sack from Rudy.
Rudy sucks.
Yeah, I was kind of out on this one.
I don't like the movie. And you know how bland I feel like you got to be as a football movie for me to not like the football movie at all. Like I like the Adam Sandler Longest Yard.
Yeah.
That's how easy it is for me to like a football movie.
Number 1.
Sorry.
Number 1, I feel bad I haven't seen this movie. Hey, Dad, want to have a catch from Field of Dream. I never seen it.
So I think the theme, and I've seen Field of Dreams. So there's an emotional tie to that. So I think that's what I think disqualifies the Major League. Like Goosebumps thing is like we talked about Game of Inches. We talked about Hey Dad. We talked about Denzel with Remember the Titans. There's emotional weight in those that give you the goosebumps, and that it's sports that ties these moments together, right? Which is one of the beautiful things about sports.
Yeah.
And I get Rudy has that. I just don't care about it. So I didn't like the movie. Little pipsqueak walk on, like, okay, whatever. And then Ricky Vaughn with Major League doesn't have any of that. So that would be, I think, my exception with that one as far as being like a top 5 Goosebumps.
I have a snub. So there's a big snub for me. And
Okay.
I think my favorite sports movie ever is Miracle. And my favorite scene from that movie is Herb Brooks early in the movie kind of putting this team together, and it's like a late night practice, and it's the again, right? Again. You know what I'm talking? Have you seen this movie?
Again.
And
Run
then
it again.
Again. You're like, man, these players are not going to live through this. And then finally, Mike Eruzione gets it, right? He screams out his name, Mike Eruzione. And Herb goes, who do you play for? United States of America. Come on, man. I got tingles right now, man. That's an amazing moment. It's an amazing moment.
I have another snub.
All right.
Have you seen We Are Marshall?
Yes.
With Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah.
And it's after they rebuild the program after the plane crash that tragically wiped out the entire program with the exception of a few young guys that didn't travel with the team. That pregame speech that he gives in that movie.
It's a good call, Kyle.
Man, that. And that's the kind of like emotional weight where I think about the ones that he had on his list that I really did like. Like that being just this devastating life experience for not just those individuals and their families, but that entire town and community. And to rebuild it, I think they did a really nice job with that movie. I think that's a really underrated football and sports movie in general.
Good call out. If you're on YouTube, fill up the comments. Let's know what are the snubs? What are the best goosebump movies in terms of sports moments? Casey says in 2023, there were 124 50-yard field goals made and 5 over 60 yards. Through 2 weeks, there has already been 35 field goals over 50 yards this season. The take is by the end of the season, there will have been more than 155 50-yard field goals made and more than 7 from over 60 yards.
So that's double the 60-yarders?
Well, it would be so from 5 to 7 on the 60-yarders, and 50-yard field goals go from 124 to 155. Obviously, the pace right now is way ahead of that.
I'm buying 2 high safeties. Can't get close to the end zone, so you got to kick long field goals now.
I agree with that. I think the other piece of this is the touchbacks going to the 30. That extra 5 yards of field position, I think, is putting teams in position to kick those longer field goals. So, yeah, I'm in on this one as well. August, the one that I picked from August, is Klint Kubiak pulls a Dave Canales and is hired on as a head coach after only 1 season as an offensive coordinator, and he clarifies that 2021 doesn't count.
I think this is a great take right now. If the trend that they have continues for the season, and the Saints, who are averaging 46 points a game,
yeah,
they got 91 points in the first 2 weeks.
Well, yeah, and Kubiak's got the stuff, right? I mean, he's got the name, Shanahan influence. I mean, trendy offense. If it continues, right? That's the if. If it continues, yeah. I mean, book it. No question. Somebody's going to sign up for that. You pull this type of production out of Derek Carr after he's kind of been dead for the last several years, and Kamara's got life, and you had questions about this offensive line, and they're figuring it out. Yeah, someone's going to hire that guy to be their head coach.
Yes.
All right, folks, coming up on the other side of it, there's an aggressive wings take that we got to deal with, and honestly, a whole lot more. Be sure to stick with us. PrizePicks is America's #1 daily fantasy sports app with over 5 million active members. PrizePicks is the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Unlike other apps on PrizePicks, it's just you against the numbers. Here's what you do. You pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections, and you watch the winnings roll in. PrizePicks is the only real money daily fantasy sports platform that has an injury insurance policy, so that way your lineups stay in play even if one of your guys gets hurt. PrizePicks also puts their members first, so withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get money in as quick as 15 minutes. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL and get $50 instantly when you play $5. That's code LOCKEDONNFL on PrizePicks to get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. PrizePicks, run your game.
Mel didn't even say, like, cover two. Like, he said just the pre-snap structure of two high safeties. You're not allowed to line up.
15-yard penalty.
What's the difference? Brian Flores gave a cover zero look and rotated to cover like Tampa 2 against San Francisco.
You can do that, right?
You're allowed to do that, even though you're playing with two deep safeties.
It's an unbelievable
mind melting for a guy who's been an integral part of the game of football for as long as Mel has. This is a mind numbing.
Yeah.
Like,
it's tough.
I cannot believe it.
Sam's got a take here. I'll say it and we'll talk about it. Sam says the idea of eating wings is always better than actually eating the wings.
Unless you know how to clean a bone like Joe Marino. The umbrella technique.
It's important.
I don't like the saucy feeling on my fingers afterwards, though. It's greasy, and then you wash your hands, but sometimes, depending on how oily the sauce is, it's still there. Like, you still feel like it's on the tips of your fingers. Like, I'm not a big fan of that.
Whenever you and I have had wings, I feel like every time you get like some type of rub as opposed to a sauce.
Yes.
Which I think aligns with your thoughts there. Yeah. So I think if you're not do you like ribs? I don't think I've ever seen you eat ribs. Are you a fan?
If they're done right.
If they're done right, but do you still feel the same way about like, okay, this is a messy? Is that what it comes down to? People don't want the messy.
I don't want to be the chocolate cake kid from Matilda who comes up from my meal and I look like a lion in the Serengeti with the sauce smeared like blood all over the bottom half of my face.
Yeah, and I do. I do want to be that. So
you have a beard.
I know. I recognize the challenge of like it's a messy process, but I literally
comb it out.
Dude, I get like antsy if I haven't had wings in a while. Like I have to have them. So I'm out on this, but if you can't reconcile the messy nature of eating chicken wings, then okay, that's not for you. And I think anybody that would agree with Sam is probably in that camp. Deuteronomy says through
like D-O-D-E?
No, like the book in the Bible.
D-O-O-D? Oh.
Deuteronomy.
I don't know. You'd expect most of them to be like brain rot.
Nope.
Wordplay. Twitter handles. So
not this one.
The actual Bible
book of the Bible. Yeah. The take is that all 2-0 through all 2-0. Okay, so of the 2-0 teams, the Chargers, Saints, and Vikings will all miss the playoffs this year.
All right. The Vikings. They play their next 4 games are Houston, at Green Bay, New York Jets, Detroit Lions.
If they can go 2-2 through that, that'd be big. They could go 1-4 though, right? Like that's hard stretch.
They could go 0-4. They finished the last 2 weeks with Packers Lions again.
But if they win 9 games, does that get you the playoffs?
Maybe.
It might. The Saints, I mean, man, it's so early, right? Like, can't you see? I mean, Tampa Bay looks like they're going to win that division in my mind, but like, it's so much left to happen. I mean,
dude, I just go back to the Chicago Bears starting the year 2-1 and then finishing 3-14. Like it, and that was 2022. Who knows? Right back in a month.
Yeah.
Right back after 3 more games.
I get the interest in talking about it, but I feel there's so much left to learn. I would say it's unlikely that, I don't know. Yes, they could all 3 make it. They could all 3 miss it.
I mean, from a mathematical standpoint, isn't it like 62% of 2-0 teams make the playoffs or something like that?
I was hoping to find that. I know that it's like 6.3% of 0-2 teams, but I don't know the other side of it. If you are 2-0,
I would say mathematically speaking, it's probably unlikely that all three would miss.
Yeah. The Weekly Huddle podcast says a good run game is a better complement for an elite quarterback than a number one wide receiver. Investing $20 million or more into a single wide receiver is a worse use of resources than investing it in offensive line and tight ends to boost the run game. Elite high-paid receivers only make average quarterbacks look good. They don't drive a team over the hump.
So there's a structural conversation here, right? And I feel like this is what we're actually seeing play out across the league early on this year. And how do you manipulate defensive structures? And if you're an elite quarterback, you're going to get a lot of respect automatically. And then if you invest in receivers, in theory, you're going to have that respect compounded in the same way versus if you have the ability to run the ball, then you're going to force defenses to make a decision on what kind of structure they want to provide. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And defend you with. And then if you get A, then you do B. And if you get C, then you do D versus we're going to have A and you're going to give us B and we're going to try to beat B anyway because we have elite players. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that's what we're seeing teams wrestle with from a theological standpoint.
I think what's interesting about this is I think the Chiefs are the team that started doing this. And they didn't do it to start running the ball, though. You know, like that wasn't their big transition. They just structurally played offense a little bit differently after they chose not to pay Tyreek and traded him away. But, of course, they have invested in offensive line and in tight ends. Buffalo's obviously in this world. Green Bay's in this world. But there's other teams that are not doing this, right? There's other teams that are paying receivers. I don't think it's bad to have good receivers, but I do think when you talk about the limited resource environment and where you're going to invest your money, what means more to the quarterback? I think he's got a case, but I think the denominator of having like Patrick Mahomes as your quarterback matters a lot in this equation. I don't think, but he says elite quarterbacks too. I think,
right? But how many elite quarterbacks are there? There's
not many.
3, 4.
Yeah, it's a small list. Yeah,
right. And like 2 out of at least 2 of them, the 2 heavyweights in the AFC that are the general consensus top, I guess 3 guys, because there's some debate about 2, but I think it's that debate should probably go away. They can live in that world. Most other teams can't live in that world because you got to find the next guy that's like that,
right?
To be able to confidently be able to afford to do that. And we're sitting here being complimentary guys like Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield for what they've become and developed to be. But those guys are supported by their skill players just as much as anything else. I think Detroit has perhaps the most interesting build because they're a young nucleus that had a veteran quarterback that they got on a fairly team-friendly deal up until they did the extension. And they had a surplus of draft picks that kind of flooded the system over a 2-year stretch, and they hit on a lot of their picks.
Yeah.
What's that look like? And they got the key guys locked in already, Amon-Ra St. Brown, but they got Amon-Ra as a day 2 pick. Day 3 pick? Was he 4th round pick?
He's 4th round, yeah.
So day 3 pick. So I think every team's a little circumstantial.
Of course. For Detroit to be in this position after getting Penei Sewell and Aiden Hutchinson, like in the top 10.
Yeah.
Right. Come on, man. That matters a lot. That matters. Like, credit to them. And they've certainly made other great picks along the way, but man, that's a heck of a way to jumpstart what you're doing. Lucas is coming to spike the ball, Kyle Crabbs. He says a couple of weeks before the season started, I had a take that said the Ravens would finish last in the North because of their offensive line problems. You guys were all the way out. Is this an accurate take now? We shared in those concerns. We just didn't think the Ravens were going to be last in the division. Plus, it's week 2.
What's the date today?
September 19th.
Oh, okay.
Right, like nobody was disagreeing that the offensive line was an issue in Baltimore. In fact, I would say that Kyle and I have been champions of that narrative more than anyone else I've heard. But the part of this take that we didn't agree with was that they were going to finish last in the division. And I still don't think they're going to finish last in the division.
I think they're probably – you think they win 2 out of the next 3? They're at Dallas, Buffalo, and at Cincinnati.
They might not.
I think they can win the 2 road games before they win it against Buffalo.
I tend to agree.
Unless Buffalo's second level of their defense with Lamar, they can capitalize on and run the ball, right? But
right.
Then it's Washington, at Tampa, at Cleveland, Denver, home against Cincinnati, at Pittsburgh, Chargers. They get the Giants on here.
That's a pretty tough schedule, Kyle.
Yeah, they don't have layup games. I think that's why the Raiders game hurt so much.
And a tight loss in week 1 in Arrowhead, you know.
Is this our last?
Yeah, I'm good. This is it.
Last take. Okay, let's do the thing here. I'm just gonna give you the next 4 games. You tell me how many games they win. Cowboys, okay. Bills, Bengals, Commanders.
2.
Okay, so now they're 2 and 4. Bucks, at Browns, Broncos at home, and Bengals at home.
I think they win
3.
3. Yeah.
All right.
3.
So now they're 5 and 5.
5 and 5.
Okay. At Pittsburgh, at Chargers, home against Eagles, at Giants.
3.
So now they're 8 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
Home against Pittsburgh, at Houston, home against Browns. 2 and 1.
Yeah, I think 2.
10 and 7. Is that gonna be last place?
No. If you win 10 games and are last place in the division, then every team was above 500 last year, right? So
right, it was Cincinnati was 9 and 8 last year.
Last place, yeah.
Sometimes you get the Bengal, and sometimes the Bengal gets you, as the saying goes. So that's going to do it for us here on Locked On NFL Scouting. Kyle Crabbs, he is Joe Marino. We appreciate you guys checking out the show. As always, you can find us on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Make it a great rest of your day. Enjoy the weekend ahead with all of the college and pro football. We will be back on Monday to break it all down.